With the appointment of our new manager Regis Le Bris, it's time to do the second half of the close season reviews. The first one, which has popped up at the top right of your screen now, focused on everything the new manager needs to fix with Sunderland and the way we play. Today, however, I'm in the land of the shiny, happy people, covering positives from last season as I take a look at the ta-da list of things that went well this season. So let's get into it. Fullback. I think we have 5 on the books now, maybe even more. And despite finishing with perhaps one of the worst ones in our possession with Leo Helder, this is a position of strength for us to be happy with. Fullbacks have often had a special place in Sunderland fans' hearts, from the bone-crunching dominance of John Kay and Chris shoot-making to the flair of Mickey Gray and Julio Arca. There's something about a solid fullback that we appreciate, so it's something to be happy about that we're currently blessed in this area. Hjelde will hopefully improve, but Niall Huggins showed what he can do in the first half of last season before snapping a cruciate.
Niall Huggins!
Dennis Serkin should be fit for pre-season.
2-1. Huge goal for Sunderland.
And Adji Elise completed a protracted return to form in the last few games. What was noticeable about that was how much better he looked than most of our defence when he did return, delivering crushing pinpoint tackles and getting upfield into the opposition box to add threat. Elise is a tremendous athlete, and it was great to have him back at the end of the season. Add to this the ever-present talent of Trey Hume on the right, and actually we're in a really good place for fullbacks. Our new manager loves fullbacks, loves putting them wide, loves putting them up the pitch, so there's much to be happy about in this position. Statistics in general proved pretty good last season in open play, and a careful look at them show that we were not only mismanaged, but that it actually won't take very much to fix us. Sunderland were in the top 4 for shots this season, ahead of Leicester City, and 7th even for shots on target before you wonder about the difference. We just need someone to stick them in the net, because our goal conversion rate from those positions was the worst in the entire division. Those stats alone show that if we can sign a decent striker, then we will score, and that changes the whole complexion of everything for Sunderland. Because at the other end of the pitch, only 4 other teams conceded fewer goals than Sunderland this season, and we conceded some of the fewest shots on goal as well. Sure, we have been sucker-punched too many times, and poor selections have exposed us to the obvious strengths of other teams, but this has been the result of tactics rather than competence of players. Minimal signings for defence should make us really hard to beat with a manager who knows what to do. We also dominated games in terms of possession, averaging 56% possession per game. That's the 4th best in the league. And this isn't just a Norwich walking football type of possession, because we also dominate field tilt. Now, field tilt is a measure of how many touches a side has in the final third, compared to the rest of the league or compared to who you're playing. Add to this, we're 5th for 1-2s and top the entire division as the most successful team in conducting dribbles, and you start to realise, putting all this together, that despite the awful season we had, the data behind the team show that Sunderland are skillful, technical, and dominate possession, creating a large number of chances. Sunderland are a football team ready to explode, with a manager who knows what to do with them. And in the appointment of Regis Le Bris, we have a manager who flourished at Lorient, with a team topping the stats in 1-2s and dribbles. So perhaps we've got a lot to be optimistic about here. That's that bet made then. Let's see you post yours in the comments and follow suit. And if you want to know more about Regis Le Bris and the style of football and tactics he employs, then there will be a link to that at the end of the video. Transfers have been largely disappointing, particularly last season, but in the 2 seasons before that, we did acquire Jack Clark, Patrick Roberts, Daniel Ballard, Dennis Serkin, Adji Elise, Pierre Ekwa, who, by the way, had still only played 18 months of men's football in his entire career. The likes of Aushish, Sealt, and possibly Mundell from last season look like they will improve and have something about them. And Triantis and Pembele show potential, even if they haven't yet realised it. When you consider this entire list, transfers should really be something that we are hopeful about and optimistic about. The trouble is the obvious failing at the top of the pitch in trying to acquire a striker, which we have absolutely failed at in the last 3 transfer windows. This has soured the good news elsewhere. But perhaps we shouldn't let it. On the other side of this transfer coin is something new to a Sunderland fan, that lots of our players are increasingly linked with big money moves away. Apart from Jack Clark, there's the likes of Dan Neil, Dan Ballard, Joe Bellingham, Trey Hume and Anthony Patterson. All are subject to transfer speculation, and it doesn't often stop with those players. I know this worries us all, that traditionally big players have always left us, but really this is a pointer to something good, that we have good players, and that should give us a reason to be hopeful, because even if there are sales, I'm convinced that most of these players will be kept. The development of other young players in our squad is something that doesn't get much attention, and actually we should be very pleased with. Abdullah Ba, for example, has shown improvement year on year in the 2 that he's been here. Sure, he may make infuriating mistakes, but there are some games where he's been our most creative player. I'm thinking Ipswich away or Queen's Park Rangers away. But it's his defensive work that is often overlooked and rarely figures in judgments on him. It is perhaps not a coincidence that Wharton was statistically Blackburn's worst player on the pitch when we beat them in September, with Barr harassing him. England under-21 international Jed Spence too was anonymous up against Barr in December for Leeds, as was Leif Davids for Ipswich when we played them away, until Barr was substituted in that game. Then he provided the goal. Offensively, he has improved. There's only Clark, Neil and Roberts who are statistically better dribblers than Barr, and he chipped in with 3 goals and 4 assists, the 3rd highest of the entire squad this season. Sure, he needs to improve his passing and choices at times, but he's now played 68 games in the Championship and is still only 20 years old. If he can continue to improve at the same rate this coming year, he'll be an important player for us. Add to this the obvious talents of Joe Bellingham, who after Clark has our highest XG despite playing all over the pitch, and he's our 2nd top scorer with 7 goals last season, still only 18 years old. Recently promoted to the England men's under-20 squad this summer, he is another one who's benefited from game time and freedom this season. Then, of course, there's Chris Rigg, who, despite being frozen out by Beale, still made 21 appearances this season at just 16 years of age, and he's never really looked out of place when he's been doing it. He went on to captain England under-17s in the Euros, and so nearly put England through in the semis against Italy with this Gaza-esque near conversion. Clearly then, youth development is something to be happy with. We have good players and we're developing them. It's likely a great advert to get some more to come here. Sure, some of them might not be here come September the 3rd, but we should have confidence about developing some of our others. And whatever frustrations the club may currently be delivering, there has been a great emphasis of trying to plan for the future in terms of playing staff. Sometimes it fails in that our strikers last season look a long way from being ready, and we're desperately lacking in other areas, but the under-21s are a real success story last season. Driven on by rising talents like Timur Tutierov, Marshall Burke, Oliver Bainbridge and Tommy Watson, and they're not the only ones. The young lads went all the way to the Premier League 2 playoff championship game against Tottenham Hotspur, dispatching youth team giants West Ham on the way. As a result, our seeding in the competition will improve next season, and we will be invited to compete in the European Under-21 competition as well. And all of this was done with the 2nd youngest team in the 26-club division. Clearly, there is much to be hopeful for next year and beyond with the Under-21s. There you have it then, lots to be happy with, and if you haven't already, take a look at the areas where I think Sunderland do need to improve with the to-do list, top left now, and check out my tactical lowdown on what to expect from our new manager Regis Le Bris in the top right. If you like what I do, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and consider donating to my Patreon. Links in the description as well as on the page now. Roll on pre-season. I'll see you then.